Habeas corpus. 1. Any of several common law writs issued to bring a party before a court or judge, especially habeas corpus ad subjudiendum. 2. The right of a prisoner or detainee to obtain a writ of habeas corpus as a protection against illegal imprisonment. Nation. Did you know? Example sentences, word history, rhymes, entries near, related articles, podcast, show more, save word. Habeas corpus, noun habeas, corpus, habeas corpus. 1. Any of several common law writs issued to bring a party before a court or judge, especially habeas corpus ad subjudiendum. 2. The right of a prisoner or detainee to obtain a writ of habeas corpus as a protection against illegal imprisonment. Did you know? The literal meaning of habeas corpus is, you should have the body, that is, the judge or court should and must have any person who is being detained brought forward so that the legality of that person's detention can be assessed. In United States law, habeas corpus ad subjudiendum, the full name of what habeas corpus typically refers to, is also called the Great Writ, and it is not about a person's guilt or innocence, but about whether custody of that person is lawful under the U.S. Constitution. Common grounds for relief under habeas corpus, relief in this case being a release from custody, include a conviction based on illegally obtained evidence, a denial of effective assistance of counsel, or a conviction by a jury that was improperly selected and impaneled. The literal meaning of habeas corpus is, you shall have the body, that is, the judge must have the person charged with a crime brought into the courtroom to hear what he's been charged with. Through much of human history, and in many countries still today, a person may be imprisoned on the orders of someone in the government and kept behind bars for years without ever getting a chance to defend himself or even knowing what he's done wrong. In England, the right to be brought before a judge to hear the charges and answer them was written into law over 300 years ago, and the U.S. adopted the British practice in its constitution. Examples of habeas corpus in a sentence. Apply for a writ of habeas corpus. Recent examples on the web. Examples are automatically compiled from online sources to show current usage. Read more. His attorneys immediately filed a habeas corpus petition that accused the Trump administration of arresting him for exercising his free speech rights. Kayla Bamberger, New York Daily News, the 30th of April. 2025 2nd, the court specified that such review must be filed through a habeas corpus petition. Veronica Egui Brito, Miami Herald, the 29th of April. 2025. This includes the sacred right to petition for habeas corpus, the ancient writ that allows a person to challenge unlawful detention. Andy J. Samodiuk, Forbes.com, the 28th of April. 2025 prosecutors argued that a petition for habeas corpus is an action on the authority that holds the petitioner in custody to free her, and not an action on the one in custody, so the proper venue would be a district court in Louisiana. Flint McColgan, Boston Herald, the 4th of April, 2025, Advanced Quizzes. Word of the day, grammar, wordplay, slang, rhymes, word finder, thesaurus, join MOU, shop, books, merch, login sign up. How to use habeas corpus in a sentence. Habeas corpus, noun. Definition of habeas corpus. Efforts to reform the state's habeas corpus process are not new. David Owens, Current.com, the 11th of May, 2018. But if Trump has his way, habeas corpus itself might be in jeopardy. Josh Hammer, Newsweek, the 19th of March, 2025. The case also builds on the legal history of habeas corpus. Zoe Sottle, CNN, the 22nd of May, 2022. Lyle and Eric Menendez filed a habeas corpus petition last year. Emily Shapiro, ABC News, the 25th of November, 2024. The order suspends habeas corpus and allows courts to hold trials behind closed doors. The Economist, the 25th of January, 2018. The deadline to file for a federal habeas corpus petition had passed. Ashley Remkus at al.com, Al, the 7th of June, 2021. Pregerson went to the prison to see for himself, and then either filed a habeas corpus petition or persuaded a lawyer to do so, Zhao said. Doug Smith, Los Angeles Times, the 14th of June, 2024. In his filing, Cressman described Eccles' request as a habeas corpus writ. Bill Bowden, Arkansas Online, the 9th of February, 2022. Thomas Wilner is one of the lawyers who won the two landmark Supreme Court cases that established habeas corpus rights for Guantanamo detainees. Longreds, the 1st of March, 2018. Along with the right of habeas corpus, it was intended as a safety valve for a justice system that the founders knew makes mistakes, as do all human systems. Alaska Dispatch News, the 3rd of October, 2017. In 1997, Dunn filed a habeas corpus petition in federal court. Chris Pomorsky, The New Republic, the 23rd of June, 2022? That's because in a habeas corpus case, the issue is whether a trial judge did something that was within the range authorized by law, not whether the law required the death penalty. Mark Tushnet Vox, the 5th of July, 2018. Velasquez, who was 18 at the time of the shooting, was on the doorstep of the Downey apartment, but knew nothing of another man's plan to kill Roybal, according to a habeas corpus motion. Richard Winton, Los Angeles Times, the 7th of March. 2024. The motion argues that habeas corpus is the wrong legal argument under which to seek relief. Kyle Melnick, Washington Post, the 22nd of February, 2023. The habeas corpus petition is a key factor in whether Mangione can be extradited to New York. Kara Scannell, CNN, the 16th of December, 2024. Attorney Richard Brauker filed the habeas corpus petition that led to last week's court ruling. Jason Fagone, sfchronicle.com, the 26th of October, 2020. His lawyers asked the federal court in a habeas corpus petition to order his release onto the base until a country could be found for him. Carol Rosenberg, New York Times, the 2nd of February, 2023. In March Hill, who is indigent, as are 90% of all those convicted on federal charges, filed a habeas corpus motion from his prison cell in Edgefield. Walter Pavlo Forbes, the 4th of June, 2022. His freedom would then depend on the Supreme Federal Tribunal, which is scheduled to rule on his habeas corpus petition on April 4th. Washington Post, the 25th of March, 2018. That move would render moot John Doe's habeas corpus petition challenging the right of the U.S. to continue holding him without charges. NBC News, the 7th of June, 2018. Bench began in the 17th century to permit women and their children to utilize habeas corpus to escape abusive men. Lawrence Wright, The New Yorker, the 28th of February, 2022. The provision, part of Article 34, is a version of the habeas corpus rights rooted in centuries of Anglo-American law. Peter Landers, WSJ, the 4th of January. 2019, liaisons at airports have been filing habeas corpus petitions around the clock for people being detained. Brandon L. Garrett, Slate Magazine, the 30th of January, 2017. Eric and Lyle Menendez filed the habeas corpus petition in 2023 for a review of new evidence not presented at trial. Emily Shapiro, ABC News, the 21st of February, 2025. Through the habeas corpus petition, the court could reverse the conviction or reopen proceedings. Emily Shapiro, ABC News, the 18th of October, 2024. But would that decision be applied retroactively to habeas corpus cases filed by convicts whose time to appeal ran out years ago? Dan McLaughlin, National Review, the 17th of May, 2021. The brothers filed a habeas corpus petition in 2023 asking the court to vacate their convictions or give them a retrial in light of new evidence. Carissa Waddick, USA Today, the 22nd of February, 2025. Lawyers for the Pentagon and the State Department are said to have present to declare that the clause protects detainees in the context of habeas corpus proceedings, while also saying that the standard had been met. Charlie Savage, New York Times, the 9th of July, 2021. Hawkman announced in February that he's asked the court to deny the habeas corpus petition, arguing the new evidence isn't credible or admissible. Meredith DeLiso, ABC News, the 19th of March, 2025. Separately, Surrey filed a habeas corpus petition in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia, in hopes of being released from detention. Gary Grumbach, NBC News, the 20th of March, 2025. Some of these examples are programmatically compiled from various online sources to illustrate current usage of the word habeas corpus. Any opinions expressed in the examples do not represent those of Merriam-Webster or its editors. Send us feedback about these examples.